For 3 years, Al Jazeera has been investigating the pro-gun lobby.
Nice to meet you too.
Filming with hidden cameras inside America's National Rifle Association.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
How are you guys?
Good, mate.
And tracking a political party from Australia as they seek millions of dollars from the US gun lobby.
They threw $10 million at us. We can win a heap of seats, plus loads of seats in the Senate.
In secretly recorded meetings, the One Nation political party promises to reverse Australia's gun control laws.
If we don't change things, people are going to be looking at Australia and go, well, it's okay for them to go down the path of not having guns. It's like poison. You know, it will poison us all unless we stop it.
More blood will it take for leaders to say no to the NRA?
I think it would be very beneficial if you are all able to take steps in the right directions, because the biggest argument we always get from folks is, well, look at Australia.
We can hang together or hang separately.
We're not going to hang at all. We're going to kill them.
One Nation learns from the US gun lobby how to sell the message that more guns are good.
Offense, offense, offense. That's what the NRA does very well.
And how to smear supporters of gun control by accusing them of exploiting a massacre.
How dare you stand on the graves of those children to put forth the political agenda? Yeah. You shame them to the whole idea.
I love that.
Don't mess with me. Just make my day.
Yeah.
If it gets out, then rock the boat.
Listen, thank you very much, especially coming out today on a very wet day.
On Australia's Queensland coast, Senator Pauline Hanson is addressing supporters of her Conservative political party, One Nation.
Yeah, and I don't question the establishment. I spoke from my fish and chip shop. I was never aligned with any political party. I was just like you.
With the federal election looming, Senator Hanson is honing her message that Australia is in trouble.
What I've learned over the last 2.5 years being back in Parliament terrifies me. I really am concerned about the future of this country.
Hanson is a senator leading a populist right-wing party that bears her name. For years, she's pushed a hard-line anti-immigration policy.
I'm a bloody tough boss. Lab in hand, stood here all these years, put up with all the crap that I've been dished out to not want to achieve something for the people and what I believe in for this country.
One Nation's Chief of Staff, James Ashby, is one of Senator Hanson's top enforcers. He's an architect of her battle plan for the coming polls.
Please don't underestimate how important this next election is. It is so important. We do need to get it right. Thank you.
Everybody at the fish and chips.
And in the audience, Roger Muller, a pro-gun advocate. His calls for softer firearms legislation brought him into One Nation's inner circle.
We'll see you tonight. We'll have a talk now.
Roger Muller is the public face of Gun Rights Australia.
Hey guys, Roger Muller here from Gun Rights Australia. We don't have our rights as gun owners diluted.
And they've come out with legislation that picks on farmers. Gun crime has been decreasing at a steady rate. In the meantime, keep following us on all our social media.
Roger has a reputation for high-level connections within the pro-gun community in the United States, including senior executives such as Chris Cox from the National Rifle Association.
guns, no knives, no umbrellas, folks.
Roger has made it clear to America's gun lobby that he wants more guns in the hands of Australians.
Here in Louisville, Kentucky, at the NRA annual meetings, I'm very pleased to have with us Roger Muller, who is here all the way from
Sydney, Australia.
My goodness gracious, and this is your first NRA annual meeting.
The first annual meeting, and it's a very impressive show.
The event was expected to attract 70,000 people, some of them from all over the world.
At the end of the day, nobody's saying everyone has to have a gun. What we're saying is it needs to be a rational debate.
From Australia to the land of the free, Roger Muller traveled to the NRA convention in Louisville from down under.
We're here at the NRA conference to learn more about what the NRA has done. We've had some great conversations with them.
Okay, down the lens. Keep looking down the lens. Great. Wonderful. Looking good. Beautiful.
But Roger Muller isn't who he claims to be. He's working undercover for me, Peter Charlie.
Roger, there you go, mate. Very interesting.
I'm a reporter from Al Jazeera's investigative unit. We created Gun Rights Australia as a front in order to infiltrate the pro-gun lobby and understand how they operate.
Hey guys, Roger Muller, GRA. Day one here at Louisville at the NRA conference, 2017 NRA conference. Don't forget to look at the website.
Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon.
Roger used concealed cameras to film officials from the NRA. He even rubbed shoulders with Donald Trump Jr. He briefed me on what he'd seen and heard. Over a period of 3 years, Roger handed over hundreds of hours of hidden camera recordings.
And Afghanistan.
In 2018, Roger attended a One Nation function in Sydney.
And I do believe the next federal election, we will win seats, increase our numbers on the floor of Parliament in the Senate. And I do believe...
When Roger introduced himself to James Ashby and told him about his powerful US contacts, the One Nation Chief of Staff said he wanted to meet them. People Ashby thought might fund the party as it prepares for the polls, with the promise to loosen Australia's gun laws.
Hey guys, Roger Muller, GRA. Well, I've got a special guest today, Steve Dixon, who's the head of the One Nation Party here in Queensland and a Senate candidate. How you doing, Steve?
Absolute pleasure to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. So, Steve, can you tell me a little bit more about the One Nation gun policy?
Well, very straightforward. We are pro-guns and pro-people in this country owning guns.
One Nation's proposed review of gun laws was devised by Steve Dixon. He's a former state government minister, now One Nation's party leader in Queensland. He's running for a seat in the Senate in Australia's upcoming elections.
How do we actually make the difference between United States laws, Australian laws, so that it's practical and sensible and more people can actually get involved in shooting? All good?
All right. Thanks for your time.
Champion, thank you for yours.
Dirty Harry, so you know what? Don't mess with me. Just make my day.
As Roger infiltrated the One Nation Party, their leaders wanted him to plan a trip to America to forge contacts with the NRA. He was invited to the party headquarters and was greeted by James Ashby.
Hi, good to see you. Nice to see you. So anyone that is a member of Parliament up here has an office. Yeah.
I'm glad I asked. Thank you. We love America. I said this to James this morning. I said, I feel so passionate about America. Sometimes I want to be an American because they believe in their country. I want to be that patriotic about Australia. These four great countries in the world that the United States really have, that's like us.
Well, I mean, England and Australia are the two greatest allies, aren't they?
The weather conditions here are a whole lot better than England, and England's been taken over by Muslims, so I reckon we got a right number one.
Dixon says he dreams of changing Australia's gun laws to make them more like those in America.
I was a minister, mate. Once I found out about regulation.
How easy?
Let's get out of my way, mate. I was just regulation of everywhere. I didn't know you could do it. And once you find out, mate, it's like finding the kitty's lamp.
Kid in the candy store.
Yeah, you just do anything. I was changing it all the time. It was great.
And if you're packaging it up with some other good laws that people will support.
Yeah, don't want to be sick. Bury it.
The death toll continues to rise at Port Arthur, where a gunman today went on a random shooting spree.
The nightmare unfolded around 2:30
Police
this
say the shooting
afternoon.
began in a cafe by a car park at the former penal settlement.
Shot by a crazed gunman.
Stormed around the area unchallenged, picking his victims indiscriminately.
The laws Dixon proposes to soften were put in place following a massacre in the Australian town of Port Arthur in 1996.
I'd never heard a gun before, so my immediate thought was that it was a car backfiring.
In what was then one of the worst mass shootings ever recorded in the world, 35 people were murdered.
I'm seeing people being shot, and then I saw him, and he had this massive, very large military rifle. And he was coming up behind my daughter.
The killer was using an AR-15 assault rifle. It would become a weapon of choice in mass killings in America for years to come.
No one's running, no one's screaming, but with every shot that's fired, there's another life gone. And there's another life gone. And there's another life gone. And you are feeling your own mortality. He walked past myself and my daughter. I'm on the floor. He shoots me in the back. And he shot my daughter in the back of the head. And I could see his feet walk past me.
The atrocity led to a swift and radical revision of Australia's gun laws.
I will do everything humanly possible to get an effective tightening of the gun control situation in this country. Most Australians would find it absolutely unacceptable that weapons of this kind are available.
Total ban on both semi-automatic...
Automatic and semi-automatic firearms were banned. And in what became known as the National Firearms Agreement, more than 650,000 guns were destroyed.
Gun laws are probably the standout social reform of the 1990s in Australia, and in fact they're globally significant because Australia is able to demonstrate the before and after a change of this scale. In the run-up to the Port Arthur massacre, Australia was tracking on the same level and rate of mass shootings as the Americans. But since 1996, there have been 0 mass shootings of people that are not known to the assailant in Australia.
The Port Arthur event is etched into the minds of anyone who was alive at that time. It was a pivotal event to establish safe gun laws for Australia. The National Firearms Agreement covers everything, from the sale of firearms, the ownership, the responsible use of firearms. And it's a very, very fine document that all Australians are proud of, and it keeps us safe.
Mate, we want to get funding. That is really the nuts and bolts, because we can change everything in this country. We can make that happen.
One nation is excited about travelling to the US and what a meeting with the NRA might deliver.
This is the thing I want to get through your head. Mate, if they threw $10 million at us, we can fucking win a heap of seats, plus loads of seats in the Senate, mate. You make this shit happen, mate. I'll make sure we open any door you need open, if we're in a position to do so.
Dixon asks for guidance on how best to deal with the American gun lobby.
It's better that we know, mate. You know, we're pretty prepared for the meeting. I don't want to go over there and piss them off, because that's not the reason we're going. No. Do they like straight up and down stuff?
Absolutely. They're straight up and down people. They're good people.
I can give them that with tomato sauce.
They ask Roger to help secure the NRA's endorsement of Pauline Hanson.
We need to explain to them this is about politics, it's about changing, getting a political wing in Australia that can actually work hand in glove with the United States and the way that the United States thinks. Because I want to be in bed with the United States. I say that unshakably, and I don't think Pauline's too much difference. I mean,
it's the left-wing anti-gunners who literally point to Australia using the mainstream media as the shining model as to why we need gun bans and gun confiscations.
The NRA is so troubled by Australia's strict firearms laws that it's targeted the issue in videos like this, suggesting that Australia's national firearms agreement is a failure and must be scrapped.
In America, we have rights, and Americans will not stand for a government, any government, trampling our rights.
Dixon says that by funding a social media campaign, the NRA could promote One Nation without handing over any cash.
we can get $1 million fucking US towards social media. I don't even need the money. I just need the grunt. We can get the grunt of that social media supporting us. I don't need to touch the money.
That way, the NRA would promote One Nation's social media content while providing cover for their financial contributions.
Just give us the money. But if they are third party punching this in and we're giving them the stuff they're punching in, I don't need any more than that.
So it doesn't even come in yet. I got you.
This is good.
Dixon believes that as a veteran politician, he knows how to make deals like that happen.
I'm very fortunate that it's experience, and the more experience you get, I've been a minister in a government. I've done most of it. I'm really fortunate because I was on a committee within Parliament called the PCCC, the Parliamentary Crime Conduct Committee. It's bad. I'm never going to jail, what happened, because I
figured it out.
I walked the knife.
In all of history, there's always been a time and a place when patriots stand up and rise up against the decree of the elites and shout, "No more."
At the NRA convention in 2016, Roger witnessed the power of the gun lobby's messaging and influence in US politics.
I'm officially announcing the NRA's endorsement of Donald Trump for president.
My sons have been members of the NRA for many, many years, and they're incredible. They have so many rifles and so many guns, sometimes even I get a little bit concerned. I said, that's a lot.
The would-be president follows a well-worn NRA script. America's Second Amendment, the right of US citizens to carry a gun, is under threat. And he will make sure nobody ever takes anybody's guns away.
I will not let you down. Remember that. I will not let you down. Thank you.
The NRA's messaging to the gun community increasingly has been built on fear. Government's going to take away your guns. They often use the United Nations as a demon, as they have demonized Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton before them, and using fear to gin up support, fundraising, new members, and gun sales.
Hillary Clinton wants to abolish the Second Amendment. Just remember that. We're not talking about change it. She wants to abolish the Second Amendment. So we're not going to let that happen. I can tell you that right now.
From the inside, Roger learns the NRA's playbook for influencing public opinion.
Boom.
Yeah, I'm in the States a bit, so I'll come and meet with you. It'd be great. Man, we've got to fight. Same fight, mate.
Absolutely.
Okay, nice to meet you.
When One Nation landed in Washington, D.C., Roger was there to meet them.
How are you guys? Good, mate. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
He had set up meetings for Dixon and Ashby using his gun lobby contacts.
Hey, yeah. So it's Diana, it's James. James, it's good to see you again.
Yes.
It is Dixon's first visit to the United States.
What do they call that big thing in the middle there? Big spear.
Yeah, the big obelisk. That is the Washington Monument.
The trip is timed so they can attend one of the gun lobby's most influential gatherings of the year. The dinner is organised by the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation.
First, I want to take an opportunity. We have some guests from down under, the One Nation and Gun Rights Australia. Stanford.
Weapons are auctioned to raise cash for the gun lobby. The One Nation visitors regale guests with tales of life down under.
We're not even allowed to own guns in Australia for self-protection for women. They're not even allowed to have mace. It's insane. And we've been importing all these Muslims into Australia. We have 230,000 people coming in a year. Our population's only 25 million, and they're really dangerous people. And they're just breaking into people's homes with house with baseball bats and just killing people, basically stealing everything they own. Gangs. It is just, our country's going into chaos.
They tout themselves as front row cheerleaders for the US President Donald Trump.
I mean, we celebrated his win, the first outside of America. And we were out the front with a bottle of champagne out in front of our parliament. And we cracked that and celebrated. And we put it all across the internet and went big.
To Donald Trump, cheers.
To Donald Trump.
Congratulations, President Trump.
Charged 12 times by elephant, 4 times by buffalo, 4 times by lion.
The One Nation visitors tell potential donors to their party that they want to change gun laws back home.
The good people in our country are similar to yours, but it's a fight we can't afford to lose.
Dixon discusses Australia's firearms laws with Congressman Ted Budd.
Is there much resentment from the population towards the gun confiscations?
Yes, a huge amount of
He gives congressmen a warning. The banning of automatic weapons in Australia is the beginning of a trend that threatens to take hold in the US.
We are the bellwether in our country, and if we lose our things over there, you'll be next. We've got a political party called the Greens, and they are, like, honestly, they are the worst people. They are the Democrats on steroids beyond, like, pure imagination.
We can hang together or hang separately.
We're not going to hang at all. We're going to kill them.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for helping us as we make these phone calls, God. Help us to say in the right way, and these people that we call, help them to be receptive to what we say. And that if they haven't made a decision, God, that they would make their decision on Trump's side. We thank you. We give you all the glory and the praise in Jesus' most precious name. Amen.
In America's Midwest, NRA volunteers are gathering to help promote the organization's newly endorsed presidential candidate.
Roger, he's from Gun Rights Australia, if you haven't met him. He's here observing us, hoping to take what he sees back to Australia to get those guns back. I appreciate having him here.
Roger finds a recurring message amongst those assembled here. Australia's strict gun laws set a disturbing international precedent, and it's imperative that the legislation be changed.
We're going to get our guns back in Australia.
We're going to work towards it, yeah.
I hope I see in my lifetime you guys swing that around, turn it around.
As soon as you get that passed, contact Brian. I'll send you over some rifles. We'll donate them.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. So.
Tell them I said as soon as they get their guns back. Let us know and send them some. I got accuracy.
The volunteers tell Roger how the NRA sways public opinion, play hard on the vulnerability of women.
Women, women protecting themselves. See, the angle is, shouldn't she be allowed to protect herself?
Defend herself.
Why are you trying to take this away from her? If I can somehow put it into that context, I can win the argument. Why are you taking away her choice to protect herself? Man, what kind of barbarian are you?
My name is Dave, and I'm a volunteer with the NRA. Can I ask you 2 questions about the upcoming election?
Following a script written for them by the NRA, the Ohio Volunteer Group will make hundreds of calls tonight.
The NRA has endorsed Donald Trump with his promise to do everything in his power to protect our Second Amendment rights. Were you planning on supporting Clinton or Trump?
One of the volunteers is just 12 years old and has been working the phones in Ohio for weeks.
Thanks, Olivia. Appreciate it. Thank you. Are you guys coming tomorrow?
His mother says he's now made more than 2,000 calls, urging voters to put Donald Trump in the White House.
So he's helping you out with the phone calls?
Yeah, and then usually we volunteer and we have other kids that volunteer.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us tonight. This call was paid for by the NRA Political Victory Fund and not authorized by any candidate. Thanks and have a great evening.
The head of the NRA recorded a widely broadcast message to its members celebrating Trump's victory.
On November 8th, you, the 5 million men and women of the National Rifle Association of America, along with the tens of millions of gun owners all over this country who followed your lead, achieved a truly extraordinary, historic, even heroic accomplishment. You were the special forces that swung this election and sent Donald Trump and Mike Pence to the White House.
Well, I'm so excited that Donald Trump looks like he's over the line, and I'm so happy about it because this is putting out a clear message to everyone around the world that the people power is now happening.
The One Nation team gathers at their hotel.
For all those gun enthusiasts in the world, I'm just arrived in heaven.
They have more meetings lined up, and they're feeling buoyant.
Think about it, we're sitting in Washington, D.C., the centre of the free world, talking about how we want to change the future of the planet.
Ashby calculates how far money from the gun lobby can push One Nation's future.
We would win potentially balance of power if we took 2 seats in the lower house. And you know what? I reckon you can do that with $2 million. If you went 20, you would own the lower house and upper house.
You would have the balance of power in both houses. If we could get that sort of money, imagine we could change Australia.
If One Nation could get $10 million,
you'd pick up 8
Senate seats.
That guarantees you balance of power. I mean, that
out of
how many? The whole government on the ball.
The next day, Ashby and Dixon visit the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action.
I'm telling you. So,
Brandy Graham is a senior NRA lobbyist. It's her job to make sure Congress maintains a pro-gun agenda.
in the United States, a lot of times they go, well, look at Australia. Look at Australia.
There's the problem.
And we have to fight that argument continually.
She has a tip for One Nation on how to mobilise pro-gun advocates. Work from the ground up.
I don't care if you live in a trailer and you can have 6 of your buddies come over and you got a 12-pack to share with them, as long as they're throwing in $20 for the organization or whatever it is that you're trying to raise. Like, we have people who spend $30 a year, and that's as much as they can spend.
Guns in Australia is probably one of the most important things. It's a right for Australians to own guns. We're going to lose those rights if we don't change the way our government's going.
The NRA would welcome One Nation using the right to self-defence as an argument to change Australia's gun laws.
I think it would be very beneficial if you are all able to take steps in the right direction to start providing those protections to your people. Then again, that helps us, because the biggest argument we always get from folks is, well, look at Australia. They're continually attacking us. It's never ending.
Well, we want to kill it now.
Good.
That's the plan. If we don't change things, people are going to be looking at Australia and go, well, it was okay for them to go down the path of not having guns. It's okay for them to go down the politically correct path. I mean, it's like poison.
Yeah.
You know, it will poison us all unless we stop it.
And to help stop that, Dixon asks for Brandy Graham's assistance with other meetings in Washington.
People that you may be aware of that have some similar interest to us. People will see the good in stopping this infection spreading. If you can point us in the right direction with the people we need to talk to, we lack probably 2 things. We lack money, we lack people on the ground.
Graham offers to connect One Nation to energy giant Koch Industries, whose massive political donations helped put Donald Trump into office.
If you can talk about the effect of your gun policy and some of the other issues that affect them, you never know, they might be willing to help out in some way.
But Graham has a warning for her One Nation guests. Public support for gun rights can carry a risk, particularly when news breaks of another mass killing.
What's really tough when these things happen, we start getting death threats, which is crazy. You know, these people, they hate guns, but they're calling and they're going to shoot us and kill us.
A gunman fires more than 1,000 rounds from his hotel suite. Into a crowd attending a music concert below.
I'm down. I got shot. Go! Everybody go!
59 people are killed and 441 are wounded. The Las Vegas Massacre is one of 346 mass shootings that took place in the US that year.
8 children are being killed every day in this country. Over, 340 people are being shot every day.
39,773 people were shot dead in America in 2017.
We're looking to get whatever assistance we can get from you guys to make sure that people will still continue to be able to own guns in Australia.
Hey, how you doing?
The One Nation visitors are meeting the NRA's PR team.
Hi, Roger.
They're the people who deal with reporters when a mass shooting takes place.
If you go up to my office, you see there's this big hole in the wall. It's just about the size of my head.
Lars Dalsard is one of the NRA's senior media liaison officers. If another mass shooting happens in Australia, he advises One Nation to smear supporters of gun control by accusing them of exploiting the tragedy.
How dare you stand on the graves of those children to put forth your political agenda?
Yeah.
Completely shame them to the whole idea.
I love that.
It's like, if your policy isn't good enough to stand on its own, how dare you use their deaths to push that forward?
That's really good.
That's a great one.
Very strong.
They always drag our name into it. They want to drag our name into it. And if it's a bad story, like if a child gets hurt or shot with a gun, they want to call the NRA first. Well, why are you calling us? What do we have to do with this?
Catherine Mortensen is also part of the NRA's public relations team.
We will not comment because we don't want our name in that story. We had nothing to do with it. So we generally just won't comment.
And if they do comment, the NRA has a blueprint for managing the media.
Offense, offense, offense. And that is an effective communication strategy. And that's what the NRA does very well.
We the people have had it. We've had it with your narratives, your propaganda, your fake news.
The NRA attacks its critics in the media. It accuses them of being part of a detached elite and being out of touch with Main Street America.
We try very hard to promote that the NRA is made up of average Americans that look and sound like the rest of America, that we're not like some sort of outlier. We want to be relatable.
You haven't met the farmers, the cowboys, the loggers, and the truck drivers. You don't know the mountain men who live off the land or the brave cops who fight the good fight in the urban war zones. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
And we've had it with your pretentious, tone-deaf assertion that you are, in any way, truth or fact-based journalism.
The big thing right now is to get your message out there unfiltered. We want to speak directly to our members and supporters, and that's what social media allows you to do. We bypass the traditional media.
We're going to fisk the New York Times and find out just what deep rich means to this old gray hag. We're going to laser focus on your so-called honest pursuit of truth. In short, we're coming for you.
They call us about the shooting. It's like, why are you calling us? Well, because this one's a gun. It's like, do you think this is something that we support? Do you think this is some sort of policy that we would get behind? Of course, our reaction is the same as any other person's reaction. We're completely outraged.
That's the pushback, and they won't write that story.
No.
That's the sort of stuff we're up against with the media. You know, the media
Right. They're going to vilify, yeah.
Well, we've got left very orientated media in Australia.
And that's the way media is right across the globe.
If something happens here in the United States and we have gun legislation, they will continue to say, well, look at all the children that were murdered with that mass shooting. We haven't had any.
No.
But because something's happened over here, we don't know all of the components, what type of weapon was involved, how it happened, you know, like more people get killed with trucks. You know, people run a lot of people over on the street. That's what happens in Australia these days.
Oh my God!
Valentine's Day, another mass killing. This time, it's a high school in Parkland, Florida. The death toll, 17.
These are not just numbers. These are faces. These are family members. These are people of the community that are being slaughtered all across the country.
6 minutes and 20 seconds with an AR-15, and my friend Carmen would never complain to me about piano practice. Aaron Feist would never call Kira Miss Sunshine. Alex Schachter would never walk into school with his brother Ryan. Scott Beagle would never joke around with Cameron at camp. Helen Ramsey would never hang out after school with Max.
My colleague today had to go pick up her daughter, her 11-year-old daughter, from a damn good school in New York City because there was a threat of a school shooting. Today. This is the text message I get. Kids started texting their parents that there was going to be a shooting, and I ran there to find a ton of parents so upset picking up their kids. That's today.
How much more blood must be shed before lives mean more than loyalty to the NRA and the gun lobby? The blood is crying from the ground. The blood is crying from the schoolhouse. How much more blood will be necessary to scare us to life?
When I'm going out to talk to the families of these loved ones that have been killed. And you know, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll just stare at them in the waiting room, knowing that what I'm about to do is gonna completely change their life. I'm about to tell them that their loved one is never coming back. And I will tell you, looking at the faces of those mothers, sisters, you know, brothers, fathers, those faces are often chiseled into my memory.
What was frustrating is that Hollywood and the gun groups just dumped all this money in.
The One Nation visitors heard the NRA's take on the student protests following the Parkland High School shooting. Brandy Graham said the survivors had become the puppets of anti-gun agitators.
They took buses down and they were organizing these kids and telling them what to say, what to do, who they could do interviews with, who they couldn't. So it was all orchestrated by these anti-gun organizations. It was not organic.
And to those politicians supported by the NRA that allow the continued slaughter of our children and our future, I say, get your resumes ready.
The NRA publicly mocked students who just witnessed the killing of their classmates.
These kids ought to be marching against their own hypocritical belief structures. They hate machines that cause death, except, hold on, no, you ain't never gonna take their cars away.
You want to attack a teenager who went through a school shooting? That's who's your enemy now, is a school shooting survivor? A kid who doesn't want to die? It's pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic.
We hear the first gunshot echo through the hallways. Our first response was, that sounded a lot like a gunshot.
It was every day that you had that David Hogg in the media. And now they're getting bored of him. It's time to move on to something else. And this kid, he's gonna be a mess, I guarantee you, for the rest of his life, because all of a sudden these people are gonna walk away from him and he's gonna be like, I thought I was really important.
Yeah.
Never mind that he wasn't actually there when the shooting took place, that he went home and came back. The media, you know, that was uncovered, but then they decided, well, that doesn't really matter. That's not really too component of what's going on.
So right now we're in a school, an active shooter. It's not a drill, and it's currently, it's 2:52.
But David Hogg was at the shooting. He recorded a video on his phone as the killings were taking place.
I heard one gunshot. We thought it was a drill initially, but it's not.
The NRA claims videos like that are broadcast to boost ratings and to attack citizens' rights.
The opportunist wasted not 1 second to exploit tragedy for political gain.
Many in legacy media love mass shootings. You guys love it. Crying white mothers are ratings gold.
The elites don't care not one whit about America's school system and school children. If they truly cared, what they would do is they would protect them. Their goal is to eliminate the Second Amendment and our firearms freedoms so they can eradicate all individual freedoms.
They've had enough. They've had enough. And they're gonna tell you to your face, Wayne LaPierre, you're peddling bullshit. And if that's painful, look in the mirror and ask yourself if it's truthful. Because oftentimes, truthfulness is the most painful.
The NRA has hijacked our government. They've taken over. They're in the pockets of too many elected officials. Gun control. We want gun control. We want gun control.
With pressure mounting for gun reform, how does the NRA maintain the support of so many members of Congress?
It really boils down to the brass tacks of, can you help me or hurt me?
Glenn Caroline's role is to mobilize the NRA's 5 million members to support pro-gun politicians.
We're a big organization. We're very good politically. We've been doing it a long time. where can we actually make an appreciable difference? Where can we replace an anti-gun lawmaker with a pro-gun lawmaker? Where do we have to rally our supporters to keep a pro-gun lawmaker in place?
I remember when I was at the National Rifle Association, I went in to see a couple of the senators, and I remember very distinctly playing real hardball with them. I handed the senator 2 letters, and one letter essentially says, "Dear fellow NRA member, when we came to see your senator, he was more concerned about what the New York Times had to say than what you believe in." The other letter said the opposite. "Dear fellow NRA member, when we came to meet with your senator, he was far more concerned about your interests and your rights than what the editorial board of the New York Times had to say." Now that's hardball. That's how you play the game.
We have to make sure that we're fighting on the presidential front, the Senate front, and the House front, because we just can't afford to take any steps backwards. We concentrate our political resources strategically where we can have the most impact. Is to try to realistically and strategically decide, are there some politicians who can't be corrected on this issue?
No.
One Nation's James Ashby knows how Australia would react if it ever learned that the party was asking for American gun money.
If it gets out, and rock the boat. This shit goes through my head every single minute of my day.
So his meetings in Washington were to be kept secret, or so he thought.
I imagine it'll do more than rock the boat. I think it may actually sink One Nation as a political force in Australia. The majority of the Australian population is still very, very strong for gun law reform. Try to unpick that with an argument that says, I want a third-party lobby group in another political jurisdiction to dictate terms to you, makes no sense to me. This would be the last thing you try to unpick through the back door.
And I enjoyed talking to you all. I'm sorry, but I find it would be very frustrating to be in Australia. This would be an uphill battle.
Well, look, there are plenty of good things about the country too, but unfortunately we have to deal with certain scrappy ones.
Yeah.
In the next episode of How to Sell a Massacre, One Nation lands a meeting with energy giant Coke Industries.
They have more money than God and Jesus and Mohammed all put together. All of them. That's good.
The NRA gives One Nation more political advice.
You want to put messaging out there that'll get people outraged, get them mad, easy to understand.
And a warning from Ashby to Roger to keep their communications secret.
We need to be mindful that anything in writing can always be tracked and traced and used against you.